Evening and welcome to the March 15th meeting of the Westborough Planning Board. I will wish everyone a early St. Patty's Day. I know I'm looking forward to it. Before we begin, I do want to introduce everybody to our new board member, John Pizzoni. Welcome to the board, John. So appreciate that you ran and looking forward to serving with you for the next 5 years. I don't know if you want to say anything. You're welcome to, but I hate to put you on the spot, too.
No, just thank you for the opportunity, and it was a tough campaign. No, but seriously, though, I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I think I'm the only member on the board in the last 13 years that had to run an actual campaign.
Wait. I had the biggest campaign.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Pete. You did. You had a tough opponent.
I had a...
You
remember ballot harvesting?
Yeah, right. We were.
The accusations of...
I remember the 5 mail-in ballots I sent in, right? All right. All right. We have a relatively short agenda. We have approval of a subdivision mailbox location for Silver Hollow Estates. We have a continuation of a public hearing for 9 Otis Street site plan review. We have a couple of old business items. Some may just be in case we want to discuss them, but why don't we get to the subdivision mailbox location for Silver Hollow? I think I'll just turn it over to Randy if you're ready to begin. Randy, go ahead.
Randy Waterman, WDA Design Group, and Steve Rosenfield, who's the project manager for Silver Hollow. And tonight we are here to discuss and address questions on the mailbox situation. As you may be aware, we've had 3 people occupy homes in the project, and there were probably half dozen or so more that are under construction now in the early phase. And so we started to get calls, or Steve did, I guess, that some of the people that live in there weren't able to get mail delivered. And it turns out that the postmaster has, I guess, made a decision that he won't go into any project where the roads aren't accepted yet. So we've been scrambling a little bit because the roads aren't going to be accepted for some time till they get more of these homes in the front phase done. And so we chatted with him about some different options and some ideas. So let me just point out, so coming off, this is Mount Pleasant here. So coming off of Barred Owl, there's a turnout right here that's built, paved bump out. That was the ideal location for the permanent community mailbox. That is still what we would like to do for the permanent mailbox. We were told by the postmaster to look at the box they have up at Wayside and use that as the structure. So all that fits exactly into what we had designed on our plan originally. And so we were trying to figure out, well, how can we get mail to these people for the next year? And he said, after we talked a little bit, there is another bump out right here at the beginning of the street. And so we said, well, if we came in here and put a temporary mailbox, your standard front opening type of box, maybe 6 to 12 units right here, would you come in and then you can turn right around, you don't have to drive through the project? And he said, yes, that would work for us. So I spoke to Jim a little bit about the idea, and again, there is a bump out that's here already. It's a logical location to do it, and so what we're proposing is to put a temporary mailbox here and keep the permanent one there so that once the road is accepted, this box could actually move over, and then they would add a total of 26 units at that location.
You won't try to have 2 boxes?
No. I think he would prefer to go to one location for all the boxes, so
right.
it's really, we're letting him decide. And
Yeah, all right.
we did submit a plan that demonstrated down on the lower level where the temporary box would be, we were going to add, because we're adding holly and there's other holly in the project, a couple of holly shrubs behind that temporary box. And then these larger trees that you see, those are the crab apples that are called out on the subdivision plan that still are, will be installed by the applicant. So they're trying to hide this as best they can. Those shrubs are called out on the plan to go in at 3 to 4 foot height, originally, and then grow up from there.
So in other words, for the permanent box, once he drops the mail, he's going to have to drive all the way through the development and back out again?
On the temporary box?
No, on the permanent.
Permanent, yes. He'd go all the way through the project to get to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the way it's been, on the design has been since the start.
Not that big of a loop.
But basically,
No, I know, but it's just...
he would come in and drive through the back, and then he comes out this way and can drop off mail here. But he'd really just be doing one drop at that location. And then for the permanent mailbox, since, we're getting into this and we wanted to get the board's review and approval of this location, it's on the definitive plan at that exact location. But a couple of the neighbors, we understand, had some questions about screening. And I don't know if that's calls that you're getting exactly, but we've added, these are the linden trees that are called out on the subdivision plan. So those would still all be installed as planned. And then in addition, we've gone out there, our landscape architect, and we're looking at putting white pine, 5 white pine in these locations, because when the car is parked here, those headlights could shine this direction. They're behind this house, definitely, but they could shine in this direction. We have the linden trees here. These trees, the white pine, are supposed to be at planting time 6 to 8 feet tall. And then we have this row of holly that we put here, and those again will be planted at 3 to 4 feet high, which is higher than the headlight, and the headlight's down 6 inches because of the curb. So that will definitely block this, and those could be trimmed or left to grow a little more natural. So between those two, we don't expect there will be any issue with lighting going through this between the shrubs, the trees, and the evergreens that are planted.
Looks like you have 3 trees on the, is it east, south, I'm not sure, on the 35B side? Yeah, are those been added to the original plan, or?
Yes, those are new, yeah. We're trying to add a little more buffer. We know the homeowner back here was a little concerned, but their house is down at elevation 418, and the cars that are parked here are at 432. So there's a substantial drop down to them. And in addition, this line right here that you see, that is a 8-foot tall green vinyl fence that was called out in the definitive subdivision plan. And so that was really to buffer the neighbors down here, because this fence is 8 feet tall, and with them down so low, really they won't see any of this from their house. So and that fence is already in. We put a picture on the front of it.
I think it's on the.
Sorry, on that one.
page.
Yeah, so that shows the actual fence as it is installed. It's an 8-foot long green vinyl fence at the exact same location that we're showing.
When was that fence installed?
When?
Last year?
Yeah.
Randy, can you tell me how far down that fence goes? Because we did get a recent comment from 41A Warren, and I don't know if they've been included in these privacy.
This is the actual location of the fence here, comes down here, and it goes here, and that's where it stops. This is Studel residence there. This is the next house down, which is
So 41A
Gary.
is probably the next
But
one
it
down.
stops right there.
All right.
And then this, you can see the tree line here. This is all wooded. That's all in the open space, so that's naturally wooded, and they're deciduous trees for the most part. So you would have a little more of a view through there in the winter, but not during the summer. And again, this house is quite a distance, over 160 feet from that house, and that house is 15 feet below this one, so.
Right. So the concern that came to us from 41A was 2 concerns. One is Lot 24 apparently looks, is much closer to them than they expect. It's always hard for them to envision how it's going to be until it's actually up. But also the walking trail utility easement that provides pedestrian access through the back there is basically right, overlooking their backyard, and they're a little concerned about security and
Right.
privacy from that, and I'm
And
just
that's
not
from
sure
lot-
if we can,
That's
41A.
if you can initiate a
Down there?
conversation with them and see if there's some accommodations that you're willing to, at least some plantings or something to give them a
Yeah, I
little.
think Steve's been talking to the other abutters that are near here. and so
I have his email if you need it, or,
If you could send it.
again, it's not really what you came to talk to us about tonight. I think,
No,
does anybody have any other questions on the mailbox? I appreciate you letting me vent on that. I did have one question that, the lot 6, I'm sorry, that's sold. Are those owners aware that the mailbox is going to be there temporarily?
I contacted them via email. We had an email exchange. I explained the situation, basically that it was out of our control. It was subject to the postmaster and the planning board, that we were going to pursue our attempt to get the permanent mailbox put in the right place. But if we fail, this is the only option that we were given. So
We've added the hollies, I don't think he's aware of that yet, so we thought maybe we could take just a color version of this to send to him, but I mean, it's a small, the mailbox is even this big, the whole head of it, you know, so a couple of shrubs in front of it will hide it, and it's front-loaded, so they come in from the street side and would load it, so there's no lights that would be pointing at his house, it's really,
I'm just surprised by that decision by the postmaster, but again, I'm
yeah, okay.
we also,
question there. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, just on design, is the bump out, is that a revision in the curb line?
No.
That was there, so what function was that serving before the temporary mailbox opportunity came along?
I'm speculating, but I think I heard it said a while ago that it was a turnaround. You know, so that entrance would have a turnaround, not just, you know, curbing, so if somebody pulled in, they could,
That
to
decided they
Mount
were in the
Pleasant
wrong
Street.
place? Okay.
Yeah, that is, that.
I was just curious if there was
Yeah,
a
no,
function
it's-
being displaced by the town.
No,
So
that is the
it's
definitive
just
subdivision plan.
coincidence that will work as a
Yeah.
location.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it works well.
Any other question?
How long do you expect it to take the road to be finished?
The first phase, this section in here, I would, you know, we're thinking it's probably a year. I mean, give or take, there's a lot of variables with construction schedules right now, but
Right.
two of the lots,
those two there.
so Phase 1 has 15 houses on it. We expect to complete and deliver those houses, all of those houses by the end of this year. However, there are two lots here. This is Lot 4 and Lot 5, these two. These were included in Phase 2, so they're unreleased lots. So even when we finish what we're calling Phase 1, which are 15 homes and they're occupied, these, we were going to come back and fill those in, so I don't know if the town is going to accept the road if we still have to do construction on lots 5 and 6. So we may have been out of order here.
Is it possible that since he has all the lots in the back, he could swap two back there with these? Basically put two in Phase 1, two back in Phase 2, so you have the same number of lots released to him? That way he could finish those two in this section? Is something that, obviously, we're not trying to get an answer to.
Yeah,
that, but
I
it's
think
something
we,
that could-
were those designated as a staging area? Is that why we kept those in Phase 2? Because we didn't want you
Yeah.
staging stuff on a lot that was too close to Warren Street?
Yeah,
I think that was the concern from the board.
yeah.
And I'm not sure what heavy equipment or, you know, hopefully no more blasting up there. That's,
There is some more blasting, but I think it's all towards the back at this point, but,
But we will have to go back and remove the ledge on lots 4 and 5.
Right.
So there is, and there'll be foundations, so it's a sensitive project, so the sooner I mean, if it was up to us, we'd probably do it sooner. And so if we could swap, we'd probably do that, then we would finish those houses and the whole front would be finished.
well, again, that's not something we can
Yeah.
necessarily decide tonight, but
if
if you
we
wanted to come in and
make a
and
proposal.
make a proposal on that, we could probably discuss that.
Fair enough.
You know, I'd want to see which lots you were proposing to swap out, get some feedback from, you know, if you could approach the neighbors, the abutting neighbors, and say, you know, we're thinking about doing this. Would you be okay with it? Have them at least write a letter of, you know, non-opposition or something, so that we know we're not stepping on people's toes by making a change like that. But
Shouldn't we make sure that if they do make the switch, that we'll actually be able to pave the whole road so we can actually put the mailbox in?
Right.
Because I think we shouldn't change the project unless we're speeding up the process of getting the permanent mailbox.
sure.
So I think, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I think we should probably just tackle this issue and then we can kind of
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah, it's a little interesting to me, though, that they're not doing that, because we have other subdivisions in town where the roads haven't been accepted, right? And I haven't heard anything about mail not being delivered on those.
We had a different postmaster. They have a new postmaster.
Patrick is the gentleman that we spoke to, and I think Steve tried.
I'm not going to
twice.
argue with the
I
federal
tried a
government.
few times, and
Just,
he was
just going to
pretty
go with their
adamant.
decision, I guess. But it's, It's something we'll have to consider
Do one and do
in
the
new
permanent
projects,
one.
I guess.
It's not unusual, if I could, it's not unusual to have temporary locations for gang mailboxes, which is what this is. And the board approves on the subdivision plan one permanent location. If during construction they want to have a temporary, you're free to do as you like. All that matters is that when they're finished and they're ready to have the road be accepted by the town, that the permanent location is as shown on the approved plans. The temporary one can move.
And I don't think you want to, roads aren't going to be approved until they've pretty much finished the construction anyway, because you don't want heavy equipment going over the road
Right.
until they've reached a point where it's actually completed. So my guess, we're looking at a couple of years probably by the time.
It's the DPW's policy that they not do partial acceptances
That's what
of
I thought,
roads.
yeah.
So they would accept all of the roads, all two of them, or three of them in this subdivision, all at once. They wouldn't accept, say, Barred Owl without accepting
Yeah.
Meadowlark and the other road as well.
Okay.
So is a motion even required?
Well, we have to make a finding that it's a de minimis change and does not derogate from the original special permit.
No, you don't need to do that.
don't.
All you need to do is to accept the plan, and I've written it down, I can read it into the record for you.
So
Okay, you have a motion.
So my idea for your motion is that the board vote to approve the temporary and future permanent mailbox locations as shown on the plan entitled Community Mailbox Location Plan, dated 2/21/18, revised through 2/17/22, drawn by Waterman Design Associates, Waterman Design Group.
Well, I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Right. My only question is, I don't see, I see I don't see the
The revision dates are
Present.
further up, Hazel.
date.
They're in that
Oh,
box
I'm
there.
sorry, okay. No, it only goes through 2/17/22, thank you.
Okay.
But that just was for plant screening at Mailbox.
So that when you normally approve a plan, you use the most recent revision date. So he's added multiple things to this plan.
Right.
He added, at one time, the permanent location, then he decided he needed to do some screening, then he decided he needed to include the temporary location. They're all included, that's why each revision date is there.
Right, but all I'm saying is that this particular revision of 2/17/22 just says plant screening at Mailbox, and actually what we're approving is,
Yeah, but some of them say just
Mailboxes.
various changes.
Yeah, as
They're
long as
put-
it's
the-
clear.
The revision name doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's the name of the plan, which is Community Mailbox Location
Okay.
Plan. So I think
That's actually the drawing from the definitive set.
Okay.
That's why it has all those other dates. So that way, we just, instead of trying to change anything on the plan,
Right.
we just said, let's use the plan, and that's why those bump outs are there.
okay.
Yep.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, Hazel? Well, we-
Yeah.
I'm so used to roll call
I
votes.
know.
We just raise our hands, that's great. All right, that's 5-0 in favor. Thank you, guys, and
Thank you.
appreciate your help with the
We'll be in
abutters.
touch on
Okay,
some of
thanks.
the other
I'll give you a
names
card.
too. Yep.
Thank you very much.
All right, next item on the agenda is a continuation of a public hearing for 9 Otis Street site plan review. We got an email this afternoon from the proponent. I would like to request a continuance for our planning board meeting to the week of April 5th. And that's from Vito Colonna, who I believe is the applicant's engineer.
He's the applicant engineer, but the email comes from Garrett Curtis.
Oh, I see.
Who is
right.
the owner of
The
the
original
property.
email was from
Oh, fine.
Vito. Okay,
'Cause I
yeah,
know
I've got
who
the
it
email
is.
chain, you're right. All right, so this is from Garrett at Curtis Landscape, who's the applicant. And they want to request a continuance to the week of April 15th. Jim, do you just want to fill the board in?
Sure. As you know, the applicant had received comments from our peer reviewer, our engineering and drainage peer reviewer, Ty and Bond. They then had to revise the plans, send the revisions back to Time Bond. They received them about 2 weeks ago. They had a meeting and sat down and finished the revisions last Friday. We got a letter this morning from the town engineer, which I want you to read into the record before you close the public hearing, and that was in your package dated March 15th, today, from the town engineer stating that they were okay with the changes and the few things that were remaining outstanding could be finished prior to building permit. The applicant agrees to that. That's what the email from Vito originally was all about. And so they are requesting a continuance until they can get a written decision from the planning board.
All right. So are they proposing that we close the hearing tonight, or?
No, they're not proposing. They're only asking for a continuance.
All right. I will read this letter into the record then, from Lisa Lane, Town Engineer, regarding 9 Otis Street, dated March 15, 2022. Tie and Bond and the DPW Engineering Division. Tie and Bond is the peer reviewer that we hired. Has reviewed the latest response to comments for the above referenced project. The majority of items have been addressed, and we are satisfied that the applicant will resolve the few remaining comments prior to building permit approval. Therefore, DPW Engineering has no objection to the planning board closing the hearing for 9 Otis Street. All right, so this is, any questions from the board?
Yeah, I had one question. When we originally talked about this, we talked about the lighting, and one of the things that was raised was there was a possibility of they could do without lighting at the far end towards Mohawk. Because really, when you go into the site, it's got plenty of security. I mean, there's no way to get into that site really easily. And I wondered whether they pursued that at all, or are there any further discussions so that they could drop the lighting at the end by Mohawk?
Sure, I can address that through the chair. They agreed to do that, so there'll be no lighting along the site drive. Originally, there was a couple light posts along the rear of the building, but they're required by the building code to have a light over any doorway. So there are 3 doorways at the rear of the building. They're man doorways or pedestrian doorways. They're not large loading dock doors. So they're going to have just the lights over the doors. There'll be no street lights along the rear. So the lighting will only be in the parking lot, and there's no parking at the rear of the building. So I was just discussing that with a resident
Well, it was
from
raised to
Mohawk
me by a
Drive.
resident. That was,
Yeah, and
yeah.
I was discussing that with him and assured him that there would be no new lighting other than that over the doorways to the building.
Okay, and will they be able to put something over the lighting on the doorways even that I'm
Yeah,
wondering?
they're full cutoff. They're what we call light packs. They're pointed down.
Oh, okay, so they're not going to be shining.
They look like a sconce inverted upside down.
Okay, fine.
Do you know if the resident is aware of the
Oh,
continuance?
yeah, I talked to him today. I was talking to him before the meeting.
Right. I don't know if he's coming back.
I don't think so. I think he was satisfied.
All right.
But if you want to keep the hearing open, I mean,
Yeah, I
I
think
could
we
invite him.
decided we're going to probably leave it open till next week, until we get the decision.
Sure, there's no reason why you
Half
can't.
decision. All right. Since it is a public, any other questions from the board? Okay, it is a public hearing, but I don't see anyone in the audience. Do we have any written questions or any? No? Okay. All right. I will make a motion to continue the public hearing for 9 Otis Street site plan review to April 5th at 6:30.
Second.
Is it the 5th? It is the 5th, right?
Yeah, it does.
I should have checked my calendar. All right, I got a second from Hazel.
Hazel's faster than me.
Yeah, April 5th, great.
She always beats me.
Any discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor of continuing that hearing? It's 5-0 in favor. All right, next item of business, I think I'll move to a vote on, to approve the peer review for 151, 155 Oak Street. Jim, do you want to summarize this for us?
Sure. As you know, we have been farming out our peer review for engineering and drainage, and the 151 to 155 Oak Street is the Spectrum Health Center campus. It will expand with 2 new buildings, 1 office building and 1 client intake building. The peer reviewer, again, is Ty and Bond, and they've submitted a scope of services to both the applicant and to the planning board for approval. The scope is not to exceed $10,000. The town engineer reviewed the scope and sent me an email today and said she was fine with it. So I'd ask that the board approve that scope of services. The applicant has a copy of it as well.
Okay, any questions? They want to make a motion on that? I will see if we have a date on that Iron Bog peer review. I don't have it in front of me. Okay, I'll make a motion to approve a peer review proposal from Tig and Bond dated March 11th regarding 151, 153 Oak Street.
I'll second that.
Right address, I better make sure. Yeah, 151, 155 Oak Street, pardon me.
I'll second that again.
Any questions, discussion on that motion? Okay, all those in favor? I think that's 5-0 as well. All right, other business. We have several items under old business. We have discussion on the Housing Choice Act. I don't think we have much progress. We did have a meeting on the Housing Choice Act. That's, for your information, the state passed an act that requires all MBTA communities to have multifamily zoning within half a mile of the T station. So the town has to start looking at that proposed zone that would comply with that. We're in the very early stages on that. Public comments are due to the state. Try and submit, we have a housing choice subcommittee that's meeting, try and submit some comments for the town. Have to do a presentation for the for the select board on or before May 2nd. That's one of the requirements in order to stay in compliance. One of the things I wanted to ask this board is if we should consider doing a joint meeting with them so that we don't have to do that presentation twice, or we can just have that presentation. I think we should all hear the presentation. I don't know how you guys feel about that. We can do it twice. It's not.
So it's a required public hearing. I would suggest that you do it with the selectmen and have them host it, because the statute says the select board or the chief elected board has to hold a public hearing. So it would be them with us.
No requirement for the planning board to go through that presentation, but I think it would benefit us all to start getting our, as much, gathering information so that we're all informed on this. So why don't we talk to the select board? Jim, we had a tentative date for that. I think it was the 2nd.
Yeah, it's their second meeting in April, which would be the 22nd, I believe. Because our meeting is on the 3rd Tuesday, which is the 19th, so that would be the 24th, Tuesday the 24th.
So,
Is that enough time?
26th, Tuesday the 26th.
Is that enough time? March or April?
April.
Is that enough time to meet the May 2nd deadline?
Oh, yeah.
yeah, no, you just have to have a meeting.
Oh, okay.
You don't, and there's a community information form that the town manager needs to submit. It's a relatively short form.
Okay.
It's not,
That's easy then.
we just have to have the chair of the select board or the town manager has to sign saying, we had this meeting on so-and-so date, and here are the minutes, and so on.
Is there a burden for the content of the meeting, the presentation, or a standard, or, some?
There's no set standard, but they have put out some sample presentations that other towns have done that they consider representative of, and modeling our presentation after a couple of similar sites.
So is this a subcommittee when you say we?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think Patrick Welch, who's the select board representative on,
Yeah.
is also our liaison for the
Yep.
planning board.
He's
He's going to do the
lead it.
presentation.
Okay.
And then the rest of us can be there for information, discussion, and questions. Probably be a lot of questions. I think even the state is still fine tuning this.
Right.
So a lot of the questions that are coming out now will go into another final set of guidelines that they have yet to issue. So hopefully we'll get some more clarity over the summer.
Are we providing feedback? I know they were in a listening period.
Again, the housing subcommittee is working on some public comments.
Okay.
If you have anything you want to suggest to us.
Yeah, no, the only thing that comes up, it's something that we've talked about, with PACE financing and some of the other things with regard to sustainable building that, whether it's the library or the school, building, state building funds, not really supporting any kind of lower energy, higher efficiency building. The issue with that affordable housing, it would seem that because the developers have by right development, at the end of the day, that the state would encourage those, because they're low income, to be more energy efficient.
So there's no affordable requirement.
Okay. Well, I would say,
A town can choose to put an affordable requirement.
well, then the density alone would suggest that, they should comment on that.
So one thing to keep in mind is that site plan review is still required. So if the site plan review regulations, which we've been discussing, requires energy efficient buildings and provision for energy efficient vehicles, they would be required to include that in their construction standards, as well as provisions in their parking for energy efficient vehicles. Yeah, so it's kind of a backdoor into the process. The state is not requiring it because they're leaving some discretion to the communities, but they do say that by right development can still require site plan review if the municipality requires site plan review.
Okay. Good, that's sufficient then.
We'll have to build some sustainable things into the zoning, and the zoning has to meet state approval. So, but we can't have any, for example, we couldn't zone 100% affordable because they would say that that's not economically feasible for a developer, and you're not actually encouraging multifamily housing. So
Does it have to be by right, or does it?
it has to be by right. It'll be interesting. Now, the interesting thing is, when they say by right, the zone has to be able to support a certain number of units, but you could already have units in that zone. So it's not like if you've only got 40 units in that zone, well, the zone has to be able to support a certain number of units, even though so it does, a lot of people had questions, well, units we built Westborough Village or those count. It's nothing to do with any of those counting. Those have nothing to do with what could the zone support if it were a blank slate. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
The only other question, I might as well ask it right now, had to do with sewer and water.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Since we don't really, the town's in the process of analyzing our sewer capacity. We don't have a good answer on what our sewer capacity is. The state has said that, if there's services, there's public services to the site that, the town has to be willing to allow connection, but they also said that if the site can support private sewage, wastewater treatment, then that would be acceptable.
Yeah.
So,
It seemed like there was, yeah, I meant it more in the comment, while they're in this listening period, that they had more robust language in the terms that they set out. It seemed, my recollection from reading it just that once over was that the sites had to support, water and sewer, period, and I think your points at that time was, well, they're still in the listening period, there's some give and take here, and that's not necessarily realistic when you're,
well, some of the MBTA communities don't
they're
even
on
have.
MWRA, they have no
Well,
issue.
they don't even have wastewater treatment.
Right, and it's the other side.
So, they're not going to make a town put in a whole
System.
sewage system just for this.
I got it.
for this.
Okay.
So we had a statewide planning directors meeting today with DHCD. All of the people that run the program were at the meeting, and that question was asked about the ability to support the infrastructure for this kind of dense development. And the answer was, we understand that some of the communities don't have the ability to deliver public or municipal water and sewer. And they said they don't care if you have water, sewer or not. They only care about the zoning. So if right now you can't deliver the 15 units per acre because you can't get a site to perk with a combined system that'll support 15 units per acre, they're okay with that because they're willing to wait until you can support that. All they want you to do is to have the zoning in place.
Interesting.
So that when the technology comes along, the zoning is in place. So if Westborough, just to pick our town, decided that we wanted to do this type of zoning downtown, the regulations require that 50% of the zoning area be at the train station. And the other 50% can be anywhere. And they don't even care if you have adequate water and sewer to support that density. They only care that you have the rules in place for when the technology comes along.
Great. Good. That's helpful.
Yeah, no, it is helpful because we really don't know the answer on the sewer capacity at this time.
Yeah, nor would, to your point, nor would many communities that are seeking to do this, right?
Right.
So we're not alone in that regard.
Okay,
Thanks for that.
so we'll plan on hopefully meeting with the select board on April 22nd.
Yeah, we have an upcoming meeting of our working committee next week, hopefully. And at that time, we'll set a date and we'll report back to everybody what that date is.
Since we're on the subject of April meetings, our regular meetings are April 5th and April 19th. Do we have any conflicts with those? Are we all set on attendance? I just figured I'd look ahead a little. I am going to be out of town on the 19th.
It is my wife's birthday, the 19th. If we want to switch that, I will be open.
When is that meeting? April 26th then, right? Not
22nd, I thought you said.
26.
26th, I said the
I
20th.
misspoke.
So can we possibly do a meeting after that meeting with the select board? I mean, I don't know what we have in front of us.
Probably is going to depend on what we have on the agenda, isn't it? I mean, we
Right,
don't want to
that's-
be in a situation where we're going to 11 o'clock at night because there are 4 open. Can we leave it in abeyance for the moment?
So April 5th, you're going to open the hearing for 2 new projects, the Spectrum Health Project at 155 Oak Street and the new Atlantic Management Project at 54 Otis Street. So I expect that they'll both be continued at least to the next meeting in April. So if your first meeting in April is the 5th, when the hearings are advertised to open, you can continue it to any date after that. So you could choose the next Tuesday, let's say, which would be what?
The 12th.
12th. Or you could keep your existing date or pick one after that. It's just that I do think that if you pick the same date that you're going to have your presentation with the select board, you could end up having an extremely long meeting. unless the select board puts this item on first. But even then, it's difficult to know. I think you'd be better to pick your own date.
I think the problem with the 12th would be if we've just opened the hearings
Yeah.
on those two major projects, a week later, we're not going to really have much new information. I mean,
Yeah,
there'll be certain
they won't have time to
questions and-
respond to anything.
Yeah, we're going to need time to respond on that, so that, I don't think that makes sense to do it on the 12th.
Well, why, that'll be on the 19th?
Right, as I said, I don't think we'd be ready, there's no point in, because we need time in between on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can probably attend remotely.
Would it be possible to ask the select board whether, to do this as a special meeting? In other words, instead of, as part of their regular meeting, would it be possible that we could do this like on the 19th? Because then, Mark, if you're not here,
I have an alternate solution. What if we went to the select board's first meeting in April? I think we could probably make that happen on the
Yeah,
12th.
if the committee feels good about it next week, yeah, I'm fine with that. Doesn't matter to me.
If we met with them on the 12th, then we would have the 26th open for our meeting.
yeah. Do they have a meeting on the 12th?
They do.
Right now, they do, yes.
Yeah, that would make sense. I think that's a much better way to do it that way, because I think it's important that we give,
I don't want to change everything around just for my schedule, but.
yeah,
it
but
sounds like-
I think the important thing is these new plans also, they need, it may be helpful to us for them to have 3 weeks or 2 weeks before they come back to us to answer all our questions, because then we just end up rehashing things or asking for a continuance.
That's a good
where
idea.
We haven't really found anything out that we need to. So I would say if we did that the 12th with the Board of Select and then did our meeting on the 26th instead of the 19th.
All right, let's tentatively plan on that then. And I will, Jim can follow up with Christie, and we'll have our meeting of the Housing Choice Subcommittee next week. I feel confident we're going to be ready to do that presentation, given the progress we've made.
All that presentation has to be is an explanation of the program. It doesn't have to be any proposal that what we're going to do. It just needs to let the people know what the program requires. That's it, just the outline of the program, not a plan.
And the week of the 18th is school vacation, isn't it?
Well, that's why I'm
Yeah,
away.
that's why everyone's going to be away. So I think that's a much better way to do this.
All right, let's plan on the 12th then for the Select Board and we'll confirm that over the next week, all right? So
Then you're considering moving 19 to the 26th, though,
Yeah.
or we're doing that.
So right now, we'll have a meeting, a regular meeting on the 5th, a joint meeting with the Select Board on the 12th, and then our second meeting in April will be on the 26th, and then we'll meet again on May 3rd, so that'll be somewhat back-to-back, but that may be good if we are trying to close out some
So we're
public
moving the
hearings.
19th.
All right,
What time is the select board meet?
6:30, same
30.
as us.
Same time.
all right, so if there's no other questions on the Housing Choice Act, I don't think we have much to discuss on the Master Plan Implementation Committee, although we do have an article on the warrant Saturday, so this is a good time to remind everybody the town meeting is Saturday at 9 a.m., and we'll finish in May, sometime. It's going to be a long meeting.
I hope
so-
not.
So be ready. We'll see. It's, and we have quite a few articles, so hopefully you can all make that. We do post it as a public hearing, a public meeting, in case we have to discuss or vote on any of the articles. We did have one change, not really a change, but the warrant that was published did not include the updated language on the digital billboards. There was one sentence missing from the published warrant, and that was the sentence, "No existing off-premises non-digital or non-electric billboards or existing billboards that convert to digital shall be allowed to increase in size." That was something that the board had asked to be put in to make sure that if any existing non-digital billboard wanted to convert to digital, that they didn't all of a sudden double the size of it or go taller or anything. So, and I think that actually was brought up at the select board, and that language will satisfy some of their questions.
So if I could, just a little bit further explanation of what we need to do. So I will provide a revised motion. I sent everyone motions 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago. I think Mark has this article. I will send everyone a revised motion for the specific article to include the revised language. I'll run that by both the town manager and the town moderator to make sure they're okay with that. And then Mark would make the motion to include this additional sentence under section 3342, item E.
Mark, I had a question for you. I was looking back and reading the minutes, and one of the questions that I was kind of waiting for an answer on that I didn't follow up on was, as far as the zoning, the change of zoning on Otis Street, you were going to a Huckamucka Pond meeting and to
Right.
talk to them about that, and also whether you had any conversation with the land trust on that change in zoning.
Yeah, I didn't I'll be honest with you, I forgot to talk to Land Trust, but I did, and I'll try to reach out to them this week before town meeting. I did present that zoning proposal and warrant article to the Huckamucka Committee last week. There was really no comments, no opposition. They don't feel like it'll affect the reuse in any way.
Okay. I would just appreciate if you would reach out to the land trust, because I think that diminishing the open space from 60 to 50%, they may be interested in.
Yeah.
And they may not be aware. I mean, people often, unfortunately, don't fully read the warrant articles and are somewhat surprised when they arrive or they've missed something.
Yeah, I'm just starting an email now so I don't forget again. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay. I just wanted to raise that because with the warrant articles.
All right. Let me see if I can get a response from them. I don't know if they have a meeting before town meeting, but at least I can have a conversation with some of the officers over there and see whether they have any thoughts.
Okay, thank you.
All right. All right, so that's about it for the warrant articles. We do have some openings now since Jim Ball left in the wind. He was serving on the Capital Expenditure Committee and the Zoning Review Committee. I don't know if anyone has interest in replacing him on those committees.
Say those again.
The Capital Expenditure Committee and the Zoning Review Committee. So, just for your edification, Planning Board has to, when these committees are formed, oftentimes there's a mandate that it include a member of the Planning Board or someone we appoint, depending on how they word the committee formation. So both of these subcommittees, so to speak, the capital expenditure is a subcommittee of the select board, I believe, and the zoning review committee is a subcommittee of our board. Both of them.
I served on the cycle on capital planning when Jim was away.
Yeah.
And I think that follows the budget cycle. So that's, a meeting in the, through the budget season, basically.
Right.
What's the frequency on the zoning side?
That's what, it's not every Thursday, is it?
I don't know what their
So the
schedule is.
zoning, the zoning,
It's only prior to
No, the
Okay,
zoning
excuse
subcommittee.
me. Just for clarification, are you talking about the zoning review committee or the capital
Zoning
expenditure?
review committee.
Yeah, we meet every other Thursday at 4 PM when we're discussing new articles for town meeting. So, for example, we're not meeting this month. Right, but every other Thursday at 4 PM.
I'd think about the zoning committee. Let me just kind of look at my calendar and think about it.
Why don't we table that till the next meeting then, so we
Fine.
can, I don't want to put everything on the
okay.
spot tonight, but if somebody's interested in that, just shoot me an email, and we'll see if there's more than one person interested, we can have a discussion about it.
And if you're interested in capital expenditures, I'd say either reach out to Jim, because he was the chairman of the committee. He can tell you what the meeting dates are, or you can reach out to Kim Foster in the selectman's office, because she is also on the committee.
If the capital gains one, if that's in December, I would be open to do that because that's when real estate slows down a little bit.
Right.
And then I can probably handle that. Every other Thursday, that could be tough at 4. School bus and all that.
Yeah, understood.
So I'll probably be,
All right, well, why don't we think about it, and neither one of those is meeting in the imminent future, so we have a little time to check our schedules, think about it, and maybe, like I said, just send me an email if you're willing to do it, and we'll bring it up again. Kristen, can you make sure that's on our next agenda, too? We do, I believe, well, we don't have it on the agenda. Do we have to re-elect officers of the planning board?
You do, because you have a vacancy now, but we can do that at our next meeting if you like.
Well, typically, we would, re-elect a chair and vice chair after each election, right? Once a year. I mean, I don't think I serve in perpetuity.
So why don't I put it on your agenda for the next meeting?
All right.
That's fine.
All right, what else is on here? We have minutes. I have minutes from February 8th, February 15th, and February 16th. You should all have received a copy. John, you probably can just abstain. You can vote, you're allowed to vote, but, whatever you want to.
I'll abstain, yeah.
Okay. Any questions, comments, corrections on the minutes?
I took a look at them. They're okay by me.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of February 8th, February 15th, and February 16th.
I'll second.
Ever.
I think Hazel got it in under the wire.
Hazel's always on.
Right.
Hazel's quick.
I'm really good on seconds.
All right, we have a discussion, and we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstention?
abstain.
Okay, so that's 4-0 with one abstention. Am I missing any business? I think
No.
that's everything.
You have a light agenda tonight, but you will have a heavy agenda next week. 2 weeks from now, I should say.
Sounds like you're threatening us.
Well, we'll just be
Get ready.
we'll just be finishing up with town meeting, so that we'll just jump right into it.
There we go. I'll bring lunch and dinner and breakfast.
It's,
Oh, yes, please do that, Kristen, thank you.
yeah,
Yes, 8:30 would be good.
yeah.
So we, as you know, have a customary meeting before town meeting, just in case you want to reconsider anything on the warrant, our own articles or anyone else's article, so you can discuss them and vote on them if you choose. So please try to be there at 8:30 if, that gives us a half an hour before town meeting.
The real reason to get there early is because you get the pick of the women's club baked goods, and
Yeah,
Get breakfast better.
and don't forget to bring some money to buy a raffle ticket for the women's club, too. Serving a good cause.
so our first warrant article is number 12. It's for the master plan implementation money, and Hazel, you have that article. And then we don't have another article until Article 26, and 27, which are the two DPW articles, which is immediately followed by the Industrial E article, and then the digital signs bylaw. So we're at the front of the agenda and the rear of the agenda.
All right.
Would you like a motion to adjourn?
Definitely like a motion, yep. We have a motion to adjourn.
Second that,
Okay, Tim, finally you get the second.
something.
Any discussion? All those in favor of adjourning? That is 5-0 in favor. Have a nice night, and we'll see you all Saturday
All right.
at town
Happy
meeting.
St. Patrick's Day.
What are we
I'm
doing?
just
next?
clarifying.